I'm getting lots of compliments from people. They can see I've changed. Right now, when someone hugs me or who I haven't seen for a while says, you look fucking amazing right now after what's happened and stuff. And they're like, look at you. And they're like grabbing me and stuff. They're just like, you're solid. Hearing that reflected back and going, fuck, this really works. And it feels good. And it's not driven from an ego point of view. It's driven from a, wow, I really like this feeling. And I want to continue.
How
you doing, mate?
I'm very well. How are you?
I tell you what, I feel a bit nervous actually, like I'm doing an interview or something. Like I've got butterflies. I've been pacing up and down for like the last 10 minutes. So yeah, ridiculous, absolutely pathetic.
You could do it. It's not. No, don't you worry. It's nothing as harsh as that. Don't worry about that. No, that's all good. And so, well, first of all, thanks for booking yourself in. And so really, I guess, let's go back. Let's maybe go back to before we started working. Once someone's gone so far into the program, to then have them look back as to where maybe they were in terms of their health and wellness and physique and so on before they started working with us. And I guess what that looked like, what that reality felt like for them. And I guess what was maybe the trigger that made you think, need to go and do something, want to go and do something, and obviously maybe start sort of obviously then you found us at that particular point. But where were you in terms of looking back now from where you are here? But where were you in terms of your health, your wellness, and so on? And I guess what was the catalyst for change?
Being in and out of gym, kind of sort of love-hate relationship over years, basically. Going through the motions, basically, is the best way to put it. Knowing it's good for me, but not really going through phases of intense periods and then dropping off for a few months and stuff. So no consistency. And I played sport before, so I've been quite active and things. And so it was just, I did love the gym, but I didn't know what to do in there, kind of thing. And so I've often heard you talk about, just people copying what other people do, just doing bicep, like 4 sets of 12 of everything and just whatever. So there was no structure. I understood a little bit about food, but not enough. Well, I kidded myself. It was enough to get me by, basically. There's some ego there with sort of thinking I know more than I do. The sort of drive to find you guys and to work with you guys was, I've talked before with you. So I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. And it was kind of coming out of the other side of some difficult times and wanting to invest in me, basically, it's a huge part of my recovery process now is the gym. It gives me some structure, some focus, stability, accountability. I've often talked to you about the huge amount of crossover with how I work my recovery from those things and how your NBD's ethos or philosophy, whatever you want. There's a huge Venn diagram stuff. There's a lot of crossover material, basically, and it's really good for me. And so it's literally chalk and cheese. It was kind of basically someone going into the gym, just doing something for an hour and then leaving, and then that was it, and then going to the pub.
And kind of you've been gym, you've ticked it off. You've gone through the motions, but kind of somewhere mentally, I go to the gym, I do that, but really you're just sort of turning up and just sort of ticking it off for the day.
It was a box ticking exercise, and there was no consistency because I kind of go through periods of being into it and then would drift off for a couple of months, weeks, or whatever and stuff. So it's just a bit just rudderless, essentially, just kind of meandering, basically. So I've got now with Francesca and you guys, there's direction and goals and focus and all this stuff, and it's completely different. It's like a completely different ball game, essentially. I'm still going to the gym, but it's not the same thing what I used to do, basically. It's completely different. So.
And I think you've said a few things in there. Obviously, you don't need to delve into this any further, but you've obviously been open and you've been honest with us the whole way through, and about what you've been recovering from, and that journey back from something like that is fraught with problems, isn't it? It's not. It's clearly not straightforward. Anybody who's gone through any level of addiction, and I think I would say in some degree, I would think every human goes through some level of addiction in something. That could be the things that you've struggled with. That could be shopping. That could be relationships. That could, like we've always got something, and I think most people can certainly understand that coming back from something like that is not easy. Particularly when it's, with the things that you've gone through. I mean, certainly, alcohol is extremely sociably acceptable. It's like it's as sociably acceptable as coffee, and coffee is a drug in its own right if you really want to think about it. But so it's very easy to get into a point where we don't realize how difficult things have maybe become. And I think one of the key things that struck me in there is the structure, which you mentioned that you've now got. Because I think without structure, humans are in all sorts of problems, aren't they? They no real reason to stay on track, no real reason not to have a sneaky drink at lunch on a Friday afternoon. No real, do you know what I mean? It's like it becomes very easy for then it to be, we're then being ruled by dopamine and our body searching for this feeling of, I feel good, but I'd feel better if this happened. And it never really ever does feel better when that thing happens. It's more the thinking that it will feel better. Yeah, I can certainly imagine that having some structure in place, and I can also, I mean, and you were also honest there saying that, you were doing things but probably kidding yourself to a degree that what you were doing was right. Nutrition, I think both of these areas, but nutrition being one of those things where people say to us, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. And I'm like, okay, well then if you know what you need to do, then it's even worse that you're not doing it. It's like it's even worse of a problem. But then I don't know what it feels like for you, but I think the reality is knowing that we should eat better is what people know. I should eat better and probably less cookies or crisps or whatever. But I imagine now things have progressed to a point where you now see nutrition on a quite a few different levels now. I mean, what would you say you've learned specifically that you feel has opened maybe doors for you in terms of nutrition?
Yeah, I mean, so going like pre NBD. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I don't eat junk food all the time, so I have a relatively healthy diet. But I didn't track any calories or anything. So if you stack up what I'm eating over a day, I would eat everything on the plate. But in my head, it was kind of healthy-ish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I don't know what that healthy meant, basically, what the breakdown of it all was and stuff. It was so now, because I've kind of changed my routine. Sometimes I train in the morning, sometimes I train in the evening and stuff. So now I kind of see that with how the nutrition, the food part goes, is the way it kind of it can change and be flexible with regards to what time you're training and stuff. And so what to put in your body to do the next thing, what is going to benefit you to do the next thing, to then recover what do you need after that. It was all those kind of things. It was I was kind of I would eat chicken and rice and things like that, but I wouldn't know what it was doing for me. So I knew, I read those things were good to eat or whatever, and green vegetables and all that kind of stuff. But it was like I didn't know what it was doing for me. So there's an educational side to it, basically, which as it's kind of unlocked an interest in things again for me, basically. I mean, again, coming out of that, the haze of everything that I've been through, all of a sudden there's like an interest in what I'm doing, and there's okay, let me. Oh, I've been sent some information. Let me look that up, and let me go and then read something else about it and learn something else about it, and check which products to buy and which meat and so using my Fitness Pal. I had used it before. I had some experience with like macronutrients and stuff, but it was very minimal, and it was again a box ticking exercise, and I didn't take it any. It was just like that's done. There was no interest in what that stuff was doing for me, basically. Yeah, exactly. And so and why it was helping. And so over this last year, my body fat has dropped immensely, and it is because I do stick to the nutrition plan, basically. And it's the difference in adding that into a training plan as well, and just going to the gym and see, and then it's just an exponential change. Basically, that's what I see. Is that you put the things together, and it's just an exponential, it's like aligning interest. Yeah,
it's aligning things together rather than one person saying, I think what we tend to hear a lot is people tend to enjoy training. Going to the gym is not the worst thing in the world, but then is it effective? in most cases, no, because like I say, people tend to go to a gym, watch other people, copy them. So in other words, the skill of training around the world is pretty awful. That's just the way,
Yeah.
the reality. So that can be, most people tend to say, and I hear a lot, oh, I've been an athlete all my life, Andy. And then we see what people do, and we're like, with all the respect in the world, that is not good training, and we can help, and we can certainly help and improve the skill and the execution. But then when you start to align that with proper nutrition, and I think the thing that a lot of people get their head, switched the wrong way by is proper nutrition being a nutrition prison. I can, and I think what we try to do, and hopefully you've experienced this, which is, it starts by, okay, like here's a perfect day, and let's try and get a perfect day working and running properly, and then it's like the actual coaching of, and here's how you can start to swap things and get through. We'll talk to our clients, in this week leading up to Christmas and say, okay, well, clearly there's a couple of days coming up that are going to be quite challenging in terms of keeping things in place. But here are some things you could do in the week before, on the day, and the week after to negate things. So you can still get through. So in other words, I think we try to help people understand that once some structure's been put in place, it actually gives more freedom to a degree, right? It's knowing, well, this is the framework I need to work within, and when I'm in that framework, I'm going towards the goal. So as long as I don't do loads of stuff outside that box, then I'm good. But inside that box can be as much freedom as someone likes. Like I think one of the easiest things is we say to someone is how you cook your food can be very different from one. You can take chicken and you can just roast it. You can take chicken and it could be an actual chicken and eat it that way. Like that tastes completely different. Or you can stir fry. And all of a sudden, actually, what can look like a very one-dimensional food plan is actually very multi-dimensional. I'm guessing you probably learned now many different ways in which you can make essentially the same meal, probably.
Yeah. So I obviously, when kind of coming on board with Francesca, I was asked, what do I like to eat? What is there particular foods I'm interested in? And then the plan was curated around that. So we've got a full spice cupboard here. My missus is a fantastic cook as well, and she's one of us. She's with you guys as well. So she's got that's an extra thing to add into.
That helps, right?
And a couple that trains together. We have a fridge full of relatively similar things that we kind of cook together and eat. Obviously, quantities are different, macros are different and stuff. But so spicing, cooking different things, and the kind of I liked what you said about it being this. Initially seeing it as a prison, I must keep it to this, but then you swap chicken out with turkey steaks or all these kind of things. What is it, a lean protein or is it a fatty protein? All these kind of things, and so all of a sudden it just comes into it. And if you'd told me, Francesca put into my one of my recent meal plans, the evening meal was a homemade burger with a BAP. And if you said to me, you can eat a beef burger for your dinner, I'd be like, that's not healthy. How can that be healthy and stuff? But it's what you put in it with the wholemeal bread and all these kind of things, and then you just chuck some spices and stuff in it, and it's fun. And, I enjoy it. It's not restricted at all. It's I don't find it but it challenge basically.
I bet hopefully it doesn't feel like you're on a diet, right?
No,
it should.
No,
it should feel like, because a diet's something someone gets on and then they get back off it again. Whereas our goal is to try and create some sort of long-term framework solution that someone could see themselves doing forever. Then we know that whatever results they achieve, the chance of them retaining their results long-term is way, way higher, because we haven't gone, right, you now can't eat this food or that food or this food or that food or this food, because what does a human want to do? They want to eat exactly those things, like, that they've been told they can't eat. So I guess you can now kind of see it going in terms of the nutrition. You can see it going forward as, well, I could eat like this forever, probably.
Yeah, and it's the thing for me. I go out for dinner quite a lot. I'm a sociable person and stuff. So, but I now have the transferable sort of skill to realize when I go to a restaurant. Yes, obviously I'm not preparing the food myself, but I can pretty much see what's the best thing. That I can plan ahead and see what the best thing to order from the menu is going to be, basically.
And that's a key thing, right? Because again, the vast majority of people I work with are like busy execs. They're traveling around. They've got, business meetings, this, that, and the other. And they're like, I eat out more than I eat at home. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But once we've shown you, if you were to go to a restaurant and order something where you can't mentally pull the meal apart, like, a curry is a really good example, because you don't really know what it tastes great, nothing wrong with it, but you can't really work out what's in it macro wise. Whereas if someone ordered, a 250-gram steak with a salad and sweet potato fries, like
Yeah.
that's still a really nice meal, and most people would probably sit down and quite enjoy it. But you can see what's there, right? Well,
Yeah.
you've ordered 250-gram steak because that's what it said on the menu. You can kind of
Yeah.
eyeball the whether it be a sweet potato or potato or whatever, rice or whatever you got on the side, and then it's a salad. Like suddenly you can look at that meal and be like, I can really closely guesstimate and still enter into my fitness pal what I've had,
Yeah.
and I've still gone out to a restaurant. I've had a lovely meal, but it's
Yeah.
just, you can certainly look down a menu and be like, "Oh, that looks lovely," but I ain't got a clue what's in it. Like,
Yeah.
which,
Exactly.
and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing that now and again. Of course, there's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think certainly when someone's on their way to achieving a goal and it's absolutely top priority, then avoiding those sorts of meals makes life just so much easier. And
Yeah.
I think removes any feelings of guilt or failure when someone's gone out for a meal and they come back, and what happens is people then just don't track the meal because they're like,
Yeah.
I haven't got
Yeah.
a clue what I've eaten. And it's like what we see in the graph is a massive dip down, and we're like, okay, what happened here? And they're like, well, I went
Yeah.
out and I had a couple of glasses of wine. It's like, okay, and then I had a
Yeah.
meal and then I had dessert, and we're like, well, what did you have? And they're like, well, this. And like, well, what's happened is you've just ignored those calories.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So and that's the thing. Yeah, kind of part of the thing of being uh, in recovery is that past behavior is like dishonesty and sneaking and things like that. So accountability. It's like just put it in the thing. Be honest. Be honest with myself. Be honest with your
Yeah,
coach or whatever. Be held
yeah,
accountable to yourself and to someone. And it's
yeah.
important. That's one of those crossover things I was talking about. Basically, about being
I think
accountable.
that's that, like, and obviously specifically for you and your circumstances, and I think that crosses over to everybody, which is, if you've gone out and you've completely made a massive mess of your food for one day,
Mm,
like still track it because you've ate the food. And at
yeah.
least we can see, what did it do? What did it look like? What did the pizza that you have delivered? And like what at least, if you've eaten the food, like you say, at least put it in My Fitness Pal and be honest, because all we'll see is this, and then we're like,
Mm,
okay, cool. Well, you've
mm,
eaten it. We can't change anything about it. What happened? What was the trigger? Why did it
mm,
happen? Are there any lessons we can learn from it? Like, we're not here to berate someone and pull someone apart and
mm,
make someone feel silly for, because every human does this. Like, I can tell,
mm,
I think the only time I was really maybe never, obviously when I was being as strict was when I was competing. Well, that's like
mm,
1% of 1%. Like, we don't expect anybody to be that myopically focused because it's not healthy
mm,
in its own way. Um,
mm,
but certainly, if someone's like, oh, I can't, I always have a bag of crisps and a chocolate bar at the end of every day, and I'm like, okay, well, if you do it, track it.
mm,
Then we
mm,
can see how much calories, and maybe we can build that into the plan. So now you can get to have those things possibly, and still
yeah.
make progress, and then now have no feelings of guilt, because
Mm,
now it's not a diet. Now it's a long-term success. Like, if someone was to write me a diet, they would have to write in dark chocolate every day because I eat
mm,
85% dark chocolate and more of it than I probably ought to. I can certainly say that, but I eat it every single day. So if someone didn't write that in my plan, I'm going to
yeah.
fail because I'm going to eat it anyway, and I might as well
Mm.
write it in. So talk to me about
That's
what's
also that's also in my food plan, by the way. Dark
is
chocolate.
it? There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Because I used to write dark chocolate. So we put this thing in a lot, and I think it still exists in a lot of plans, which is like the evening craving killer. Like, I started putting these in, which was basically, it was something like a Greek yogurt with a protein powder mixed in,
Yeah.
and then or the
Shave the chocolate. Yeah.
it's like and I'm like, I'd say to people, and they're like, oh, should I have it? I'm like, I put it in your plan, eat it, and they're like, so I can have that every day, and I'm like, wizardry, isn't it? And they're
Yeah. Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't realize. I'm like, no, I want you to have it. In fact, I need you to have it so you don't eat under eat. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, this is insane. How can I have that? And I'm like, well, it's the same thing as, like you said, having a burger. It's like, how can what?
Yeah.
So I could, just go out and buy, like, either make your own burgers or go out and buy like really good quality Wagyu
Yeah.
burgers. Like, you can have like
Yeah.
such a great meal.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the training side of things. Like, any sort of
Yes.
any elements there that you've really picked up on that have made a leap forward in terms of the training side of things.
Yeah. So basically, a key thing that we're coming to, obviously, the back of, well, we are literally almost at the end of the year. So what I've been on a sort of leaning out process, basically, and we're going to go into maintenance, and then so also, by the way, I've never done this kind of thing where you lean then put on weight, and so
Okay.
I'm super interested and super excited about the
Yeah.
science, the process, the whys, the hows, and all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited about going through that process, because I'm getting lots of compliments from people. Like, they can see I've changed a lot, basically. So the key thing for me is, so my body weight's low, and my body fat percentage has been trending down, but my lifts have still been increasing as well in some of the key
really
lifts.
good. That's really good.
Francesca was amazed with some of it. And I've had key goals. Set myself some specific targets which we've achieved, and then I look to build on. So there was like a goal initially of to deadlift 100 kilos with correct textbook form kind of thing. So I'm up to 150 kilos now, basically. So that's
150.
Yeah, so I one rep basically, but I've just bought a deadlift belt, and I've got lifting platform shoes and stuff, and I'm ready to go next year, basically. And then I've always been kind of I'm enamored by people that can do pull-ups, and any calisthenic based stuff is just fascinates me. There's kind of the control of the body, like gymnasts and stuff like that. And I've never been able to really properly do pull-ups. So the goal was to work towards being able to do clean pull-ups, which we've achieved that as well. And another specific lift was 100 kilo squat, which I've done, and I think that's come out of my program now. I've been doing leg press a bit more. Those numbers are going up as well. So it's just also actually another thing as well is interesting, the abductor and the adduction machines, which in my head I'm like, why should she put that in my program? It's for girls. It's a girls exercise. Now I see my legs have changed so much in that part, and the strength and the stability that's there. And then I go, okay, so that exercise that I'm doing there, then when I go down onto the leg press, or that's why those things are going up, because everything's bloody
You've now got stability. Yeah.
And so like if we go back to how I used to train, it would like go and do a bit of bench press, go and do a bit of this, go and do a bit of that, whatever, no structure or whatever. So to have a genuine like plan of a proper training split. So I've gone through upper lower. We've done push pull, total, and leg split kind of thing. So now I'm just interested in the dynamics behind that, the kind of how when to train which muscles, how long to leave in between before you can go back to them, or just the kind of nuances between everything is generally I bore the hell out of my friends with all this kind of stuff, basically.
It's an exciting bit, because you start to realize, like when I if I was like, say, really pushing for more muscle, there'd be like legs, for example. It's obviously one of the biggest days you use the most muscle. You'd train legs, and I'd be like, okay, and then I'd start to be like, okay, technically how many sleeps does it require me before I can train legs again? Like that's how I would think about it. I'd be like, right, so I've just trained like I don't know, a hamstring dominant leg day, right? How many sleeps until I'm ready to do a quad dominant? And and I'd start to really count. Like I would literally be like, right, I'd like maybe wait 5 days, and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty good. I'd go 4 days, and I'm like, don't know if I was, and then I'd look at the numbers, and I'd be like, yeah, I didn't make the same progress I did when I made 5. So one day extra gave me much more progress. And some people might really love this stuff that level, and some people won't, and that's absolutely fine. I would suggest the people who make the best physique-based progress are going to be interested in that stuff, because we move towards that which we focus on. And if we focus on progress, then funnily enough, we seem to make progress, and that's so, like you've said, that's so far away removed from, I go to the gym. It's like, okay, like I've been going to the gym 20 years, Andy. Yeah. Okay, cool. That means nothing. If someone says I've been going to the gym and I've been tracking my numbers for the last 20 years, and actually I've moved through varying different programs that I've looked at how they've helped me in my recovery, and where my sleep and stress has been, and these ones have been really good, but I certainly picked up more injuries. And when someone starts to talk to me in that detail, in other words, they've just been paying attention. Basically, if you really want to think about it, all they've been doing is actually just paying attention to, what's been going on. And I still find, again, no one has to do that, and no one has to go into a gym and log their numbers. No one has to do that. I'm sure there will come a point where I will go into a gym and I'm just very happy to go in and train, and I really couldn't care less about the numbers as long as I've had that point is going to happen probably to everybody, because the goal for most people is just to train and keep training and not get injured and so on and so forth. There will be phases and chapters where we're hell bent on progress, and then therefore we will focus on everything. And I certainly think there's nothing wrong with not, but but then someone can't complain about not getting progress if they're not prepared to at least pay attention to what's going on. Same with food. If someone's not prepared to at least be accountable for what they're eating, then chances are they'll never reach their potential. And if someone's not at least prepared to, I remember what I lift, Andy. I'm like, do you? Like, I don't remember what I did. I don't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what I lifted this time last week. Like, I have a rough idea in my mind, but that's what everybody has, I think, a rough idea. I'm like, well, I know that I probably did 4 sets, and it will be like maybe somewhere between 12 and 15 reps at that weight. That's a big variation. Like, that's a lot of variation. And you could be going in and constantly making progress, not making progress, making progress. Whereas the goal is chip away constantly, so progress is always happening, which is obviously what you're seeing, which is awesome.
But obviously, chucking in the use of like logging with the app and stuff like that as well. So obviously, my fitness pal, I'm all over that and stuff. And the app with the training and stuff is just having it there, and it tracking what was done last week. You don't have to remember them. It's there. This is the thing. You can think about other stuff. You don't need to keep all this information.
Why use up bandwidth? There. Yeah, I say this a lot. Our job is to make stuff simple. Why try and use up mental bandwidth on remembering stuff when you can just use an app to do it for you? And it's just like, I go into a session and I still write in a book exactly the same as this, what I'm going to do, and then I can go back to what I did the last time, and I'm like, right, okay, so I've got incline chest press. Okay, right, I did 3 sets and I did this weight for that many reps. Okay, cool. I'm like, right, I just need to try and beat those numbers. So now I know the number. When I'm counting and I need to get past 15 and I'm at 13, and I'm thinking of giving up. I'm like, I'm only 3 away from fucking actually making progress. I'm like, that's all I need. That's all I now need. I'm like, I know the number. I know what I have to do. There's no second guessing. I'm not going to just stop when I'm like, I think I've done enough. It's getting difficult. I'm like, I've done enough when I've done one more rep. That's enough. That's all I need to do. One more rep, one more rep. And I would never remember that if I wasn't writing it down and being accountable. What about sleep quality? Looking at, keeping on sleep, stress, things like that. What sort of impact?
Right. So my sleep is the one thing that is probably it's got better. Okay. Now, when you come out of the cycle of what I've been through, my circadian rhythm is, to put it lightly, fucked, basically, because weekends, wasted week, all this kind of stuff. So, but it is getting better, and I do practice the kind of sleep hygiene thing, and you talk about the 3-2-1 concept about going before bed. My sleep is still regulating itself at the moment. It's something, if I'm honest, that I know the things to do and I do them, but it could be better. I can't, if I overly stress about that, I'm going to kind of, I was going to say I manage. I don't. I'm better. I better than manage.
Well, you're in control of it, whereas you were probably completely in control of it. So it's definitely one of those things. So sleep and stress are interesting because we need to get them better, but we don't want someone stressing about them because that will then in turn make it worse anyway, right? So and sleep is one of those things. I mean, for some people, sleep will always be a challenge. For some people that are just like, it's like some people wake up in the morning and they're like wide awake. Like I happen to be one of those people. Jo, my wife, is exactly the opposite. If I wake her up in the morning, what I get is wasn't worth waking her up. Right. So we're all naturally predisposed to being different in with certain things. I think as long as you're putting in what you can in terms of the sleep habits that we sort of talk about, it's going to be having some sort of positive impact in terms of moving you forward. But then for sure, stressing over it is also going to make it worse anyway, isn't it?
But that's one of sort of character defects, is that constant worry and anxiety about things, basically, and the pressure that puts on you and mentally and things like that is something I've got better at, basically. Things, some things that are out of, I can control certain amount of things, and then it's about kind of acceptance and letting go of certain things and just being okay. And also, it's like my sleep is fine. I'm an early bird as well at the moment, because I kind of get up, I do a couple of hours of recovery based things in the morning, and then I start my day. So I've grounded myself for the day, and then I get myself in a good headspace. So you guys talk about some gratitude. Again, this is the
all
whole
that stuff.
crossover thing. Yeah, all that stuff is basically I do anyway, basically. And then I go about my day, and at the moment I've just started a new job, so I've got a new routine and new structure, and I've settled into that, and I'm managing that. It's not impacted my life, my sort of priorities and things like that. I've found like a level basically now. There's a gym on site at work, which is fantastic.
Nice.
We're moving to a new office in January, and it's a brand new building basically, and the gym has like Olympic lifting platforms in it for an office gym. I'm so excited about it. It's literally ridiculous.
You're like, so it's like you found a new job, and it's like it's as if they knew you were coming, right? Like we need to get all this stuff ready for him. Like we need to get it in place.
I got an early bird offer on it and stuff, but it's just like it's kind of just being passionate and interested. Like I'm genuinely I just love it, kind of thing. And I'm active on your socials quite a lot of stuff, and I love talking about. I love engaging with the other people in the program and stuff like that, and the sharing
and we really appreciate that. I think
the acknowledging of other people's success and struggle, all that kind of stuff, and the support is a really big part of it. Actually, the kind of like a sort of a family unit almost kind
community.
Of thing. So there's
community, right?
Community. Perfect.
I say to this when people are coming in, we have groups inside Facebook, and I would say half the people who come into the program have Facebook and use it, and half don't. Like I'd say it's pretty much 50-50. And we're like, look, that we have a community. You're welcome to join it. Some people love to be part of a community and around other people. Share their wins, their struggles, applaud other people on their journey. Like some people would be far rather watching from afar. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. We just want to make sure that we put in place whatever support network and systems we can that will help that particular individual person. And like you just articulated, you quite like that. You quite like being in and amongst that. And I can think of all the regular people that contribute in all the groups that we've got. And there's always like there's like a core group of people that I know that will be in there every day, and they'll be commenting, liking, and posting their own own sort of progress in there. And I always tend to think, it's nice because it's not like people just post the amazing stuff that happened. I see people post up stuff that, I'm really struggling this week. This has gone particularly bad. And does anyone else have this problem? And people are like, I get that all the time. And then suddenly that person feels a lot better. They feel a lot less like they're a failure or something like that. So, right. Looking forwards then. So you've got, we're at the turn of the year. What's your sort of, have you got like an overarching sort of plan for the rest of, for this year, and then obviously going into next year, where, if we were talking this time next year, what would you like to have achieved?
Basically to be continuing on this journey and to get into my initial goal with like Francesca and with NBD was to was initially like beach body ready and to kind of be in the best shape that I have ever been in, kind of thing. It's to get it's basically to just keep progressing. I don't know what I don't know if I want to go on stage. I don't want to go on stage or anything. I have but it's just to get it. The gym keeps me on the straight and narrow. Basically, it's a huge part. It's a huge part of my.
It's actually more important for you. I mean, getting on stage or photo shoots or stuff like that is all very well and good. But for you, I think if it's now a part of the system and network that you've got in your life that mean you don't go back to things that would then it's nearly life, a bit over dramatic, but it's nearly life saving for you to have these things in place now, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. You just reminded me about something that I spoke to Francesca about, which was that I do want to I said one of my goals was for next year to at some point to book a slot with a photographer, basically to have some professional photographs done. So to work towards the goal of being in the best shape that I could possibly be. So because we've just kind of dropped below the body fat percentage that we wanted to get to, basically, and then I'm going to go on maintenance and stuff. So I'm going to go through the kind of bulking and then cutting down again. And so I've kind of seen that I can lean out and
get this lean
things. And so I know that will work. So I'm driven on for that, and it will be to push forward with that and just kind of for my own just personal development and stuff. And and the thing is, there's having been sort of someone who used substances for you for good feelings and stuff. Right now, when someone hugs me or who I haven't seen for a while and says, you look fucking amazing right now after what was happened and stuff, and they're like, look at you, and they're like grabbing me into that. Look, I'm not a huge guy and stuff, but it's what I was. But I'm only comparing myself to what I was like before, kind of thing. So, they're just like, you're solid. You're all this kind of like thing. It's seeing, hearing that reflected back and going, wow, this really works and it feels good. And it's not driven from an ego point of view. It's driven from a, wow, I really like this feeling, and I want to continue.
And it's also not an artificial good feeling for you. You know what I mean? You haven't had to like it's not like it's still a good feeling, and it still has dopamine and it still feels good. But it's not something that you've not gone out and kind of like found an artificial way of feeling like that's going to wear off within hours. It's a far more genuine someone coming to you, and obviously if it's someone who knows your history and knows where you've been, so when they say that to you, they genuinely mean it. So the authenticity of that feeling is like it's as high as it can possibly be, isn't it? It's as good as it could possibly be, because it's then, I guess, also it's compounding and reinstilling the fact that the journey that you're now on is obviously the right one on many different fronts. It's obvious that it is the right one, but there's someone coming to you and going, my man, like what, like I'm so happy for you. You look so good. You are now so healthy, and you're standing there going, and also it's like, and I've earned this. You know what I mean? It's like I've earned this good feeling. It's now, and therefore it's more precious, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just makes me want to continue on it. Basically, it's like I said, the flirtation with it over the years have kind of been in and out. Is now like isn't there? There isn't that kind of wavy sort of approach to it. It's like it's what I do, and it's what I enjoy. It's what I enjoy as well. Do you know what I mean? I literally if I can be a bit. I've got an addictive personality, obviously. If I kind of miss a session or whatever, I have to learn to not beat myself. Like
it's one session. It's one session.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to rein that in. So there's that. It comes with its own trappings and stuff. But it's whatever it is. It's benefiting me. And So when hearing back from people, whether it's my mum or a friend I've not seen for a while and stuff, and they're just like, it's perpetual. Then it just makes me want to go on further. Basically, so,
it's momentum as well, isn't it? Because I think it's I say a lot
talk
here
about
that we
motivation.
Right, I was about to say, we don't, we really try not to talk about this idea of motivation here, because it doesn't exist, and people go, I've lost my motivation, or I can't find my motivation, like they've lost it down the back of the sofa, like it doesn't exist anyway. Whereas if we can create momentum, I talk about this analogy of it being like a snowball rolling down a hill, which to start with, it's this tiny little ball, and anything it hits is going to come to a standstill. But if it can maneuver itself around, a few things on the way down the hill, suddenly it gets bigger, it picks up pace. Eventually, the thing will steamroll through absolutely anything its way. In other words, it's unstoppable. And you're now at that point where that momentum is now this thing that you're like, if a decision were put in front of you that is going to, you're like, no, absolutely not. Like it gets so much easier to say yes and no to the right things, because the question is only this. Does it help me continue forward in the right direction? Yes or no? If it's a no, it's like, well, I'm not interested. If it's a yes, it's like, okay, bring it in, let's go. And then this is where, when people say I find it hard to stay on track, it's like, well, you've probably just not been on track long enough. You just need to give yourself a bit more time, get more momentum going, and then suddenly it becomes. I'm not, easy is not the right word, just clearer to what decisions to make. And I think also, and maybe this might be part of some of the practice that you put in place in terms of recovery. Everything in our life is just a yes or no decision. Everything in our control in our life, in our sphere of control, is a yes or no decision. Everything. Shall I hit the snooze button and go back to sleep for another hour? Yes or no? Shall I start by drinking water this morning, or neck in like a double espresso? Yes or no? Shall I order a pizza tonight? It's just yes or no's. And most of the time, if we create space between the thought and the answer, suddenly it gets a lot easier. Normally that's helped by mindfulness practice. Like when people when people sort of sit down and learn to quiet or slow down their mind and their thinking, then suddenly between the stimulus, now the stimulus could be, I mean, here's a funny example. It's like someone cutting you up while you're driving a car. Most people's reaction is like some sort of hand gesture and verbalizing things. Which is not, I'm not saying that hurts anyone. If someone just like sat there for a second, if they were, they weren't in traffic and they just gave themselves a second, they'd probably take a deep breath and be like, well, I don't even really need to react to that. In other words, there was just a gap between stimulus and response, and that's the same with yes no decisions, and then that in itself creates momentum. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, and continues to be a pleasure to have you here, and obviously to see your progress and to see you both now here and obviously cracking on. I think you're both really set up for obviously a cracking end of the year and then another good year, and I look forward to maybe the moment when you're like, getting ready to, because the last gentleman I spoke to was like, I was thinking of competing 2025, and I'm like, awesome, and then you're considering some sort of, and I think a photo shoot's a really good one because it's a lot less pressure, right? It's a lot less pressure. If you have to change the date, you can. It's centered around you. You're competing with nobody else. Like
I'm against myself.
But it's really nice because it will, and we can think of a few great photographers in the UK who you could go and see. We can certainly talk about that at some point. But the whole thing's built around you and how you want it to look, the clothes and how you want it to, like. So it's actually a really good. It will still have a dauntingness and a new experience to it. And most people walk into it and like, I've got no idea how to pose. Like no one has a clue how to do any of that. They bring the magic out. Like they'll capture the image and you'll be like, is that me? You'll be like, this would be so cool. And then your house will be covered with pictures of you from your photo shoot.
Yeah, I know. I have to be careful with keeping the ego in check with stuff like that, though. It's a dangerous thing for me. But yeah, you're right, and it's just that kind of an acknowledgement of achievements, basically, and also it's kind of like the acceptance that, oh no, I could actually do that. I could train to look like how I think I could.
Yeah.
I can join the dots. Basically.
But it also puts something out here in the future that you're working towards, because I can tell. I mean, certainly after having competed, one shows I find it difficult if I don't have a goal in front of me that scares me, because if it doesn't scare me, I'm like, it has to be something where I'm like, okay, right, that's going to take all of my focus and attention, and then I can put it in place. If I don't have something there, then I'll find something else in my life that gives me that, and then I'll go after that for a little while. But in terms of going after and achieving the best physique possible, then putting yourself in a situation where you've got to show your physique off, either on stage or in a photo shoot, well, that's it. All focus is on that thing. Listen, I'm going to jump off. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for taking some time for jumping on. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you both being here, and we will be keeping a very close eye on your progress. And I'm looking forward to maybe speaking to you, I don't know, who knows, at some point next year, and you can be like the picture behind you. A picture of you looking absolutely savage from a photo shoot. How about that?
Awesome. Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time, Andy. Always a pleasure, mate.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful Christmas to you both, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon at some point. All right.
You take care, mate. All the best.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.